Welcome to the ATA podcast, where we talk to former elite athletes sharing their insights and wisdom derived from successfully transitioning into life beyond the game. A very warm welcome to the Athlete Transition Accelerator podcast. I'm delighted to be joined by Shelley Holroyd, an Olympian in the sport of javelin, a lady who competed for 17 years at the top flight, European Championships, World Championships, Olympics. Welcome, Shelley. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. It's a
Now,
pleasure.
thank you. The pleasure's ours as well. Thank you. And obviously, first thing I'm going to say is 17 years. Good for you. It seems like we used to say this was the longest. And just recently, the last handful of guests have all been knocking around that 17, 18, 19 years. And in any sport, particularly something as physical as javelin, well done for lasting that long, I think. The durability, first and foremost.
Yeah. I'm surprised I did last that long, to be fair. But no, I think longevity in javelin is not really heard of anymore.
No.
So, but I think that's more to do with the way people train these days.
Right.
So
Right.
I was very much on the mindset of prehab rather than rehab.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Look
like
after yourself in advance. No, it
yeah,
makes
so a lot of
sense.
drills and a lot of preparation, making sure you're doing the right stretching and not overdoing things.
Yeah. No,
So so
no,
I
it makes
I
perfect sense. Makes
oh
perfect sense.
I didn't touch weights until I was in my 20s, whereas everybody else was doing loads of weights. I was doing body weight and medicine ball.
Right.
And
Right.
I think that really helped me. But I had a very old school coach at the time called Bill, and he wasn't the most knowledgeable of coaches. And that's no disrespect to him because he actually said that to me himself. It's like he said, and I know a bit about javelin. I was like, that'll do me. I'm
Yeah.
fine with that because I was new to the sport. But I think because of the way he was and the fact he was old school, I think that helped me more than I actually realised at the time.
Yeah,
So
and
I'm
it's
grateful.
wisdom. It's wisdom. I mean,
Mm,
you say it in jest, but it is wisdom because a lot of my background was in rugby, and when I moved into the CEO roles in that space, I used to always say to the junior players, spend time with the senior players and look at how they look after themselves, look at how
yeah,
they prepare. And the most successful international level players were very big on the prehab. They were very big on the flexibility. They were doing lots of things that
yeah,
it's easy to take a shortcut. So it makes sense.
yeah.
And for all you say that coach might not be that knowledgeable, it probably was a little bit ahead of his time.
Oh,
So
I think so. Yeah, definitely. When I look back now, yeah, absolutely, 100%.
So when we just before we jump out of sport, because obviously, as you know, this podcast is very much about the transitional
Mm.
period. 17 years is a long time. I know you started very young, something else I'm going to touch on later on, I'm sure. But if you had to pull out one or two highlights, Shelley, something now that you've retired and you've got that ability to look back over that career, all those championships, world championships, Olympics, could you pick out one or two memories for us that just really give us an insight into what brings you that sense of pride, what really
Mm.
matters to you when you look back over your career?
Um, I mean, I'm going to mention the English schools because I think the English schools is so underrated and it shouldn't be. That for me was a massive highlight when I was younger. I was quite fortunate to be on Sky Sports the year, I think it was 1992, and I'd thrown the longest throw in history of the English schools. It was 56.50 I'd thrown. And everyone was like absolutely buzzing about it. So that's something that resonates with me. It was just like that just always has stuck in my head
Yes.
for this whole period. But I think the English schools prepared me for after the English schools life. So going into the 20s. Because when you were junior, everything is just like there and done for you, and you don't have to mentally prepare for anything because it's just you're just given those opportunities. Whereas when you move into a senior, it becomes more of a culture shock more than anything. So I think the English schools prepared me for the Olympic cycle
Yes.
in a way. And when I say this to people, like, but how can a schools competition prepare you for that? It's just because we used to go away. So you'd spend a couple of days. I mean, it was back in the days before safeguarding was rife. But for me, I think that particular side for me was the most enjoyable side, where I got to stay in somebody else's house and they got to enjoy coming to athletics and seeing people that they'd never seen compete before. And it was just genuinely like a family at the English schools, and I absolutely loved it. And I kind of carried that forward in the senior career that I had. And going away again with the Olympic team and the world champs and Europeans and the Commonwealths, I think it really did prepare that like massively for me. And the Olympics is something that, I mean, if someone turns around and says, oh, they say everything else but the Olympics, they're totally lying. I'm sorry, but they have to be, because it is just the pinnacle of what people aspire to. And I did say in 1992 that I would make the Olympic team in 96 on Sky Sports. Probably, yeah. So I had to go, whether
Had
I
the
liked it or not.
accountability.
Yeah. But that was me putting pressure on myself, but knowing that I could get there as well. But I had a tormented time getting to that stage, though. So
And that's something,
there's a
yeah, from my
whole story.
research, yeah, we'll come back to that one. But I'm pleased that you mentioned the English schools experience, because when we were doing our research, obviously, and this might be wrong, we have been known to get our research wrong in the past, but it stated that you picked up a javelin for the first time at 12, and then at the age of 13, you threw that spectacular throw that you've just mentioned. So
Mm.
it's probably a fair assessment. You took to the sport pretty quickly. You had some
I did.
natural empathy with it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I got caught throwing stones over some trees and the lads didn't tell me that there was greenhouses on the other side. And I
Right.
got, and I didn't realise and got caught, as you do.
Yes.
And the coach just said, "Yeah, why don't you try this?" And I did. And then, like I say, the year after I won the English schools, I threw 37.58, which I think was the under 13 record at the time, or the age 13 record, the GB record, which I'd never even realised at the time. And then my last English schools was 1992, and I threw the longest throw in history there as well, which still stands now because the javelin's changed a little bit, but no one's ever thrown further than that throw. So
Wow.
I'm quite proud of that.
Yeah,
It's
good for
just like,
you. Yeah,
but
I
that,
love
that
it.
was the English schools. It was just, I just loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it.
And you
And
can see that. It's lovely to see. This is what I always love about these conversations, Shelley. You see that, like, you can see it in you now. Something back
mm,
in 1992, here we are, 30 plus years later, and it matters and it still resonates and it still brings that sense of
us.
pride. That's what's so lovely. Well, I'm going to have to pause the sport for a second just to go into the next chapter, because I'm always guilty of this. You start chatting and I could talk all night about your sporting chapter, but just
Yeah.
give us a little bit of an overview. I know you've been involved in lots of fabulous things. I've seen the coaching elements, that desire to help people within the sort of disabled and the Paralympics arenas. But if you were just to give us a bit of an overview, a timeline from retiring from javelin into
Mm.
what you're doing now, the sort of things you've been involved with, because that will naturally be of interest to people to say, what came next for Shelley, the Olympian? What did she do when she stopped throwing the javelin?
Yeah, well, I mean, I stopped through injury, so it wasn't on my own terms.
Okay.
So I took 2 years out and didn't really do anything, to be fair. I was depressed at the time. I was
Right.
really down on myself because I wasn't able to retire on my own terms. And getting an injury where it just literally wipes out your life, that's all you've ever known, was quite a hard process for me. But with athletics and being an athlete, I learned very quickly how to compartmentalize. So I put things in boxes, put them under the bed, as you do. Obviously, the bed's in your head, and
Yeah.
you pop things away. And then decided after 2 years that was enough. That enough was enough, and moved, because I lived in Canada as well. I moved back to the UK, had an operation to fix my leg, and then went and worked for England Athletics on the disability athletics support.
Yep.
So I started coaching, and it kind of gave me that sense of belonging again, because I'd
Hmm.
literally lost myself. I didn't know who I was. I lost my whole identity. So it was like when you look in the mirror, it was like looking at a stranger. I didn't know who I was anymore. And I think that's a really important message for the younger generation that are coming through now, is like, when you do get injured, don't just sit there like I did. Hindsight is such a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But foresight is so much better. And
Well said.
if you do see yourself going a downward spiral, go and get that help and pull yourself back out of it, because it might be a downward spiral that you can't come out of, or it might take you a lot longer than what you realize. So coaching for me was a massive factor, and I wanted to give something back to the sport.
Hmm.
And I think that was my way of saying thank you, to say, like, I've taken a lot from athletics. I did another podcast the other week, and it was like, oh, you've taken. I was like, well, I feel like I've taken a lot from the sport, in the sense that I've learned from the sport,
Hmm.
and it's enabled me to be the person that I am today outside of athletics. So it's the transition
Yes.
from
Yeah.
transitional skills that you have when you're an athlete. The dedication, the determination, the resilience that you gain as well when you're an athlete. They're all transferable skills, and I think these days, when younger generation finish with athletics either through injury or they don't feel like they belong in that sport anymore, they can still utilize those skills that they've gained. And I think this
Yes.
is where a lot of them do go wrong.
Yeah.
They
And I just
don't,
can
they
I
feel
just
like they're two separate things, and they're not. They're completely and utterly joined together.
100%. And I apologize for interrupting, Shelley, but
That's
just
okay.
you make such a powerful statement there. I just want to jump in and just reinforce that, because this loss of identity
Mm,
is one of the biggest, if not the biggest challenge we see elite athletes wrestle with when they stop, because
yeah.
everything's gone from a structured environment, often, as in your case, from being 12 years of age, from a very young age, it's all you've known. So I admire your candor and appreciate you saying what you said, because it normalizes this
Mm,
process, that it is absolutely normal to struggle with your identity. You
yeah.
then went into your next point, which is again reinforcing a lot of what we talk about, that you don't have to walk away from your sport. Just because you're
Mm,
no longer competing at the elite level, not everybody wants to stay connected, but you might find it's a helpful bridge to stay connected in some capacity, whether that's coaching or some form of mentoring, as you did. It
yeah.
helps you just stay with one foot there. Now that's not right for everybody, but in your case,
Mm,
it was important. And so it's not a black and white situation. This people have said, well, I've retired, that's me done. It doesn't have to be. It might be as
no.
simple as going down to the local amateur club and coaching the children
Yeah.
there, or getting involved with your own children's teams or in school environment. It doesn't matter, but you can stay connected. And then you
Yeah.
jumped into transferable skills. Hence why I wanted to interrupt, because again, so many athletes don't recognize, because of this sort of block of this, well, I'm just a netball player, I'm just a rugby player, I'm just a javelin, I'm just whatever they want to say, I'm just, is a
Mm,
nonsense. Because
yeah.
around that discipline, there are so many transferable skills. And you just jumped in with three there: dedication, determination, resilience. So it's really important to hear elite athletes like you say that, because you went into a dark place, you dug yourself out of it, and here you are now giving those words of wisdom. And your point about hindsight, well, it's that old adage, isn't it? We're all geniuses with the benefit of hindsight, but you had those
Yeah.
transferable skills. So just reframing everything you've said there, we don't want people going into the wilderness for 2 years and being in that dark place and being
No.
depressed. There's a way to avoid that. So apologies for jumping in, but I just think you said
No,
so
no,
many
that's fine.
powerful things in rapid fire. So the coaching was one element.
Yep.
I know we're going fast forward to this, but it's interesting. I'm also intrigued that you appear to have a foot in the sort of esports domain, if that's the right way of just tell us a little bit about your involvement in that sector, because that's quite unique, very different. First time we've had anybody, a guest on the show, that's sort of in that arena.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a gamer,
Right.
and I've always been a gamer. Whenever I've been away, I've either had a handheld console, or I've always been a Game Boy back in the day,
Right.
obviously,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because I'm old school,
Yeah, I remember the Game
um,
Boy.
or a PSP, like the PlayStation Portables, and so I've always been a gamer, and it's always been my way to escape, because I think when you're away with a team, and you might not feel like you're having pressure put on you, but there is a lot of pressure that the athletes don't realize is being put on them. And I think it's important to find an escape route to take yourself out of that athletics bubble and be the norm just for that one moment. And I found gaming was my norm.
Right.
So I like play like FC 25 now, and all these other games that I play. I'm quite eclectic when it comes to gaming. I don't care what it is, as long as I'm gaming, I'm quite happy.
Right. Right.
So when it came to I ended up working in augmented reality. So you bring the digital world into our world rather than
Hmm.
us going over to the digital world. And it was fascinating. I loved it. It was absolutely brilliant. But there was something missing for me, and what I wanted to bring was to enable other people to play esports that probably never think they could actually play esports. So I did the research, I had a look around, and I found British esports, and spoke to those guys up there. And but I found was on the Paralympic side, because I worked for UKA for 14 and a half years, and I loved the Paralympic side. I wanted to do something similar for the para athletes or para gamers. I
I
wanted to
see.
bring something different to it because there was nothing there. So there was nothing to govern it either, which was one of the most disturbing things for me,
Right.
where we have classification in Paralympics and other sports, whereas in gaming there's no classification.
I see.
So you have a tournament where and I'm not going to name them because it's I really don't want to anyway. But the prize money was like $50,000.
Right.
So it was an American company, but anyone could join, and you didn't have to prove that you had a disability. And I was like, people that are disabled are marginalized anyway. They're disabled by society. Why are we allowing this in gaming?
Hmm.
I don't understand. So I want to bring something completely unique, something very different to gaming and to enable more people to actually play. I mean, I think it's 279 million gamers in the UK, or not the UK, in the world.
Right. Right.
That's a lot. There's a lot of people that are gaming,
Absolutely.
hell of a lot of people, but they're not given the same opportunities as everyone else. So we've got the Olympic esports, but we don't have a Paralympic esports. And then when you go to look at the university, like the competitions in esports for there, you never see a disabled participant. So that for me is being marginalized again.
Hmm.
You see people any disabled person is always marginalized, and it upsets me. My dad was disabled, so it upsets me to think that people are being put in that position and there's no one standing up for them.
No, no.
So, and
And good
I
for
want to
you.
be that
Good for you.
champion. I want to
Yeah.
stand up for these guys and say, no, this is wrong. This is what we want to do. So I've done a lot of research, also helping SEN kids as well in school, like when they've got behavioural problems,
Yes.
and it gives them a sense of purpose and a completely different focus. So you say to the kids, like, if you get really good like behavioural points throughout the whole of the week, then we get to have a tournament at the end of the week. And you find the mindset changes because they've got that kind of focus, like, oh, I can't do that because if I do that I can't do this. So it's creating a different mindset, and that was a mindset that I actually used when I was competing. So I'm using my own lived experiences to develop things to help other people
Yeah.
and bring them to the forefront rather than them being in the shadows all the time.
No, good
No,
for you. And
no one should be in the shadows.
well, no, well said. And I'm just listening. I'm fascinated. I'm not an expert in the esports arena, but it's another classic narrative, I suppose, a timeline, Shelley, that we see a
Mm,
lot with athletes. That there's no one thing, there's no one
no,
silver bullet, there's no magic key to say you retire and but you've obviously got a purpose to help people. That's the overarching purpose. But you've done that through coaching. You've worked with English athletics, British athletics. You've worked within that Paralympic movement. You're giving something back in a practical sense from the coaching. You're also in
yeah,
the special educational needs environment, giving something back into schools. And now you've got into esports. And I wasn't expecting that dynamic, but good for you that you've got a specific passion to helping people with disability in that arena. So I love that. I just want to probably just put a bow on that transferable skills point,
mm,
because lots of athletes, and we touched on it briefly earlier, but lots of athletes say, well, what can I bring? You've talked a lot about your mindset and what you've brought through. I'm sensing that you're very good with people and that ability to communicate as well. I don't know whether that was something that was sharpened in your sporting chapter, but if you were to pull out one or two elements that you think, yep, my experiences over 17 years as an elite athlete, as an Olympian, how it supports you now to deliver and drive all these different initiatives that you're involved with. What comes to mind for you, Shelley, in terms of those transferable skills?
um I think one of the biggest things for me is the confidence side,
Right.
to push that through. I mean, I've done this with one of the kids in school today. I reminded her as well. She's year 7, and she's like very reserved, withdrawn, and it
Hmm.
reminded me of me when I was younger. I was like, I was never at the forefront, never put myself forward for anything, never put my hand up. And I said, there's a big word that we can use, and it's confidence.
Hmm.
I said, can you say it back to me? And she took a few goes. She got confidence. And every day when I see her now, I say, what's this C word that we're going to use? And she goes, confidence. And
Nice.
and it's just changed the whole mindset that if she's ever feeling low, then think of this word, confidence, and it lifts her straight back up. And I think that's having confidence in your life really does put you at the forefront now,
Mm.
because I could walk into a room, and I say to some of the the guys that I help, and when I say guys, I mean boys or
Yes.
men. It's like you walk into a room, you're not projecting yourself. If you want people to listen to you, if you want people to turn their heads and go, "Oh, who's this talking?" And they want to listen to you. You have to have that confidence. And if
Mm.
you've got no confidence, you can't peacock. So you've got to peacock. Spread your feathers, get people to look at you. As soon as they start coming over and talking to you, your confidence will just fall out of your mouth, and you won't be able to show up talking. But that will give you so many more skills. So the
Yes.
confidence that I gained when I was younger, when I threw the first when I won the first English schools, that boosted my confidence like to no end. It was unreal, and I felt like I had superhuman powers
Right.
because I'd done something in a year and projected myself into a position of being the number one junior at that age group, and that was something that I wanted to continue doing. So confidence for me, it's like these two words: the confidence and resilience,
Right.
because your confidence can get knocked,
Yep.
because that one person could come over and go, "You don't know what you're talking about," but you need that resilience to go, "Hold on a minute, yes, I actually do."
Yes.
But it's so the two combined are superhuman powers,
I
and
love I love
that's
that. And is
got
it
that.
appropriate to go back, Shelley? And again, if you don't want to talk about this, that's fine. But I
Mhm.
had resilience on my notes here, and I was wondering if you were going to mention. I think the way you've articulated confidence is fabulous, and to your credit, and I'm loving listening to you that you obviously care. You've got a real purpose and a drive. Both my parents are retired teachers, and my dad worked within special education as well. So what you're doing, I know the impact you're having, and the ability
Mm.
to harness your sporting chapter and use that as an engagement with the children as well. I can only imagine the positivity that you bring through that. But resilience intrigues me because within the research, some of the things that kept popping up is you battled back from a variety of very difficult injuries. And if it's appropriate to raise it, you
Yeah,
had a car
100%.
accident
Hmm.
that was potentially a career ender back in
Yeah.
95. But as history now shows, you competed in the Olympics the following year. So I just wonder whether some of your resilience that you alluded to there was sort of forged in your ability to push through those challenging moments and come back from those injuries and compete still again at the highest level.
Yeah, I mean, the car accident, I was at my friend's funeral. He was a
Oh,
javelin thrower. He was killed in a car accident the week before.
right.
And my accident, I got hit head on by a drunk driver outside his mum and dad's house.
Wow.
So on the day of the funeral, so I didn't even get to go to his funeral. I was more upset about that than being in the car accident, because
Right.
he was a really good friend. So I went to the hospital, and my dad was in Scotland. My mum was on a course, so I couldn't talk to anyone. And one of my best friends, Phil, he came down to help me out. But it was if I hadn't have like had that friend there, probably would have struggled, to be fair. But I kind of came out of it after them saying, "Oh, well, you're probably never going to throw again." Because I got hit head on. He was doing 80 mile an hour.
Oof.
So, and when I couldn't feel part of my back. It was, I struggled, to be fair.
Mm.
And I was like, "Oh my God, what's going on? Is this it?" And I was like, "No, it's not it. It can't be it. This is not what I'm destined to be." So I'd always had that faith in myself that I was going to get there. And then I recovered from the car accident, even though part of my back still I couldn't feel. You could literally put a safety pin in, and I wouldn't have been able to
Wow.
feel any sensation, nothing. And then I had a training accident. So this is probably not in the research, but I had a training accident the same year, and I was bounding over hurdles, and I caught the last, I think it was 10 hurdles. I caught the seventh hurdle, and was falling forward into the hurdles, and I managed to do this, but I hit the radial head on one of the hurdles and broke it
Mm.
on my right arm as well, which was,
Is that your
yeah.
throwing arm as well? Right.
So it
Right.
was a bit devastating. I just recovered from a major car accident, and then had another thing hit me head on as well. And I was like, "You've done it once, you can do it again. Let's not panic. Let's see what we can do." And I got to the hospital. I finished a training session first, actually, because, as you
Good
do.
for you. Yeah.
Well, it was the Olympic year the following year, so I didn't want to miss anything.
No.
So I drove myself to the hospital, which probably wasn't a good idea, hindsight again. And the consultant that was in the fracture clinic, because they'd confirmed that I'd had this injury, he said, right, okay, we're going to send you to the plaster room. I was like, I don't think so. And he's like, no, no, we need to send you to the plaster room. I said, fine, I'll go. So I went to the plaster room, and they wanted to plaster my arm at a 90-degree angle. And I was just like, oh, no, that's not going to work for me, because I've got the Olympics next year. I'm going to qualify. I want to get there. This is what I promised myself I was going to do. So when the guy was putting the cotton round to plaster it up, I was unraveling it as he was doing it. And
Right.
three goes later, he gives up. He said, I'm just going to get the other consultant. I said, go on then, go and get him. So I was waiting, sat there waiting, and the other consultant came in, and he said, what's the problem? I said, you're immobilizing my actual joint. I said, which isn't going to work. And he went, And he actually agreed with me, to be fair, but I think he was more on the sporty side.
Yes.
So I said, would you consider a collar and cuff? I went, absolutely, because I knew I could take it off.
Yes.
So he's like, right, okay. So I ended up with a collar and cuff, like in proper position like this. Got out of the hospital, took it off, chucked it in the bin, went home, drove home, stupidly, again, hindsight, and got a tin of beans the next day, worked my arm. I had full range of movement, and it had healed within 4 weeks, and I was back throwing after 4 weeks.
Nice.
Five months later, I was on the Olympics. So
I love it.
it's the resilience that I had from my actual car accident kind of flowed over into this particular one, because it was just like, someone's trying to tell me something here and I'm not listening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
someone's telling me I'm not going to be able to go to the Olympics. I am not listening. I am going to the Olympics,
I
and
like
nothing
it.
is going to stop me.
Well, good for
So
you, because that's it. People might say there were signs, but you rode over them. And again, I think I love, not love's the wrong word. I'm inspired by stories like this, because I think one of the things that practically every elite athlete listening will recognize is the challenge of injury. I mean, that is extreme. Thank goodness
yeah,
you came through it okay, and not many people are going to experience anything like that. But at a lower
no,
level, most elite athletes have been deprived from their ability to train or compete by injury. And automatically, it's developing and honing a resilience, because
mm,
normal, in inverted commas, let's say non-sporting environments don't test you in that same way, both physically and mentally. And many athletes,
no,
particularly when they've competed as long as you did, have experienced that on multiple occasions. So it was your suggestion, not mine, but I'm delighted that you did say that, because resilience is paramount for all of us in any walk of life.
yeah,
There's challenge, there's stress, there's adversity, and we need an ability to move through it. And when you do it, as you've alluded to perfectly, it gives you a deeper sense of confidence. You have the transferable skill. I've done it once. I've come back from a head-on car crash. I can come back from anything. And I think
yeah.
those two marry together really well, as you said there, Shelley.
They do. They become your superpower.
Yes.
It did come back to bite me on the backside, unfortunately, in '98. So that was '96 when I did 95, but in 1998 I was at the Commonwealth in Kuala Lumpur, and it came back to bite me in a
The
big way.
elbow.
Yeah,
Right.
I ended up with a bony spur on the end of the radial head, and my arm locked in a position, and we had to break it up to try and throw. So I had is it lidocaine? It's like what do you call it? Local anesthetic injections, and it numbed two of my fingers on the day of the competition. So which was interesting,
Yeah.
to say the least, because I couldn't hold the javelin very well, and the little finger's really important when you're throwing a javelin.
Okay. Right.
Um, but I couldn't. I adapted. Let's just say I
Yes.
adapted,
Yeah.
and I came fifth with a broken elbow. So
Wow. Yeah.
people say, "Oh my God, you must be gutted you didn't get a medal." And I was like, "I came fifth with a broken elbow." I
Yeah. And
went,
two fingers not
"Where
working.
exactly?" I
Yeah.
was like, "It's unheard of." So that
Yeah.
that for me, that's my resilience coming through, and the
Yes.
confidence that I had to say, "I'm not disappointed, because I came fifth with this situation is amazing," and that
Yeah.
just built on my confidence even more.
Yeah. No, good for you. Again, fabulous stories. I love listening to this, Shelley. So one of the questions we often say, you've used the word a few times in our conversation so far, the benefit of hindsight. You know, that old adage, we're all geniuses with the benefit of hindsight, but that's one of the
Yeah.
driving forces of this podcast. We want existing athletes in whatever discipline, male or female, doesn't matter what sport they're competing in, to benefit from our guest hindsight. So if I challenged you to come up with perhaps one do and one don't, Shelley, when you look back and you think, well, I would advocate do this. It will make your transition out of sport into the next chapter easier, sorry. And I would advocate perhaps don't do this, because it will make your transition more difficult? What comes to mind when I pose that question to you, Shelley?
Well, I go for the don't first.
Okay.
Start with the lower one and end on a positive, as we
Yeah.
do. So don't ignore advice because it's from other athletes. That's what I mean. Obviously, I ignored advice from doctors, but you know, if I'd have listened to the advice of some of the older athletes, the older generation athletes back in the day,
Hmm.
I could have steered myself in a different way and maybe lasted a lot longer than what I did, even though 17 years is a long time. But I could have, the longevity could have been a lot longer, let's just
Right.
say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like on the positive side, for me, when I see younger athletes now and they all talk about lottery funding, oh, I've got lottery funding, I've got this, I've got that, and it's like, but what are you doing with it? Have you got your education behind you? Because sport is not going to last forever. And I say this to every single athlete that I've helped. Your sport is not going to last forever. You need to have a backup plan.
Hmm.
If you've got no backup plan, then when it comes to that stage of your life where you do retire, and if you've been to the Olympics, and because like I say, that's the pinnacle of everyone's like aspirations. If you've been to the Olympics, brilliant, because that Olympic status that you've got will help you later on
Hmm.
in life. But if you haven't, then you still need a backup plan anyway. So my backup plan, I mean, I'll be honest with I'm always honest with people about school. I hated school with a passion. Didn't like it. It just wasn't me. I didn't like. I felt like I was being like a tiger being locked up in a cage. That's the only way I can describe it. And I didn't want to be inside all the time. I wanted to be outside doing things. I was more
Hmm.
practical than academic. But then when I left school, I went to college and then didn't go to university. I just wanted to throw. But I didn't have a backup plan back then.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of my regrets that I didn't have a backup plan. So my lived experience now is to tell athletes and advise them that always have a backup plan. Do not rely on lottery funding to fund yourselves. So after I retired and everything else, I qualified as a sports therapist, like a massage therapist as well.
Okay.
And I did loads of other things, nutrition, you name it. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do, what I felt comfortable doing, because I knew I'd been involved in that kind of sense for in sport. I knew that massage therapists were fabulous people
Yeah.
because they helped me massively to get myself out of certain situations when my hamstrings locked up or my calf locked up or my Achilles was sore, and that for me was like paying it forward. So that's why I wanted to do massage therapy, so I could pay it forward and help other people to understand their bodies a little bit more than what I
Yes.
actually did.
No, it's all fabulous advice, and I suppose the question that's at the front of my mind as I listen to you, and it's fabulous advice. Have a backup plan. Is it a fair statement when you said very candidly earlier on that you struggled for a couple of years and you were wrestling with depression, and you didn't retire on your terms because of injury? Do you think we're all geniuses in hindsight, as we keep saying, but if you'd have had a bit more of a backup plan and you could have sort of stepped into some of the things you did after those 2 years, training in nutrition, sports therapy, you knew this esports arena teach, if you could have almost had that plan in place to say, these are the things I'm interested in, do you think that 2 year window maybe would have still been challenging, but perhaps been a bit shorter and that loss of
Yeah,
identity would have been a bit more manageable? Is that a fair
yeah,
statement, Shelley?
100%, 100%. Yeah, I could have just literally taken a sidestep instead of always just going back and forth. Because when you keep going back and forth, you're just digging a trench
Hmm.
and you're just getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think when you take a sidestep out and take a different pathway, you make new fresh steps.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different ball game. As soon as you take yourself out of that environment and move to a new environment, your mindset does reset back again, which
Yeah.
is what I actually did. My mindset really did reset itself,
Yeah.
which I'm thankful for.
Yes. No, exactly. And you did it, you did it off your own back. But that's why I wanted to circle back to that because I love your candy. You've talked about everything very, very authentically. but there's power in your message. There's nothing wrong with exploring things like nutrition, sports therapy, these different, it doesn't have to replace your career, but you can speak to people, you can have coffees with people, you can do some research online, you can jump on a Zoom call. And we always say you can rule things in and out. You can explore
Yeah,
something and go, actually, that the more I look at that, that's not going to be for me. But take some of the time that you do have, because there's no disrespect to the intensity of being an athlete, but I've been there, we've all been there, that there is downtime. You're not in the gym or out on the pitch every minute of every day. There is parts of
no,
every week where you could just explore what interests you and excites you so that you can start to shape that backup plan. There is no click your
yeah,
fingers and the plan's in place, but that's
oh
why I
no,
love what you've said. You've jumped through a variety of things here because of the sake of the podcast. We're moving quickly, but esports, education in schools, Paralympic coaching, English athletics, British athletics, sports therapy, nutrition. There's a multitude of things there, but you've explored them all. If you could have started that exploration prior to retirement, it's a whole different ball game, as you said, isn't it?
yeah, massively. And I think, like I say, I mean, I think the 2 years probably would have been 3 months,
There you go.
maybe.
Yeah.
Because I know full well that if I'd have had something, another focal point, because when you're an athlete, you have that focal point, and that's all you ever see.
Yes.
You don't see beyond that. Your horse blinkers are on, and that is all you can see. You just see what's in front of you.
Yeah.
Whereas, your peripheral vision is so important when you're an athlete. You've got to look outside of your horse blinkers.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you miss so many things. And when you're an athlete, you've got so many contacts as well. So you've got other athletes that might have gone into sports therapy. So if you wanted to do sports massage, then you go and speak to those. And what did you do to get to this stage? What course did you do? And your whole world just opens back up again.
Yes.
So,
Exactly.
and I think that's like a really important thing that, for the new generation that are coming through is to open the mind and not be so closed-minded. Athletics is a closed sport. It's not an open sport because you're an individual
Hmm.
in that sport. So, I was closed off to a lot of other athletes because they didn't do javelin at the time, and I didn't pay attention to what they were doing. Whereas I went to the 1989. I am really old, aren't I? 1989 European Juniors in Varaždin before Yugoslavia split. Very old now. But I watched Silky Rank. I think it was Silky Rank. Yeah, she was a 70-meter thrower. I was 16 at the time. She was 19, but she was throwing 70 meters. And I watched her train, and I was just like, oh my God, wow. And that changed my mindset as well. It's like, for me to get to that position where she is, I'm going to have to put in a lot more hard work than I actually realized.
Hmm.
So when I came back, I spoke to the coach, and we put a plan together. And the following year, I threw 60 meters. So I think it was either the fifth or sixth British female in history to throw 60 meters. But if I hadn't have gone to that competition, I wouldn't have seen their mindset
Yes.
and transitioned it into my mindset. And basically, it's like watering a plant. If you don't water it, you're not going to grow.
Hmm.
So you have to water your brain. You've got to put that knowledge in there. And I think now, if I'd have done massage therapy and sports therapy back then, I would have understood my body a lot more as well.
Hmm. Exactly. No,
And
I'm smiling because it's all such pertinent and powerful stuff. And actually, what you framed at the end there is perfect for the existing athlete. If you
mm,
speak to an existing athlete about how do I get better, you've talked about proximity there to world-class talent. Right, I've seen what they do. Let me refine my training plan. Let me double down on the effort there. That makes perfect sense to every athlete listening. Yes,
mm,
yeah, I wanted. Well, the same principle applies to your backup plan. Who do you know? Who can you get close to? Who's been there and done it? How do you start building a plan? And you just apply the same principles. Then you
yeah,
put your work ethic into play, you put the dedication you mentioned earlier, and you get better. And then you close this gap, this fear of what am I going to do? Your identity pressure and your identity crisis, that loss of identity becomes so much more manageable because you go from being a Olympian into the next chapter, or you go from being a cricket player or a rugby player or a soccer player, whatever your discipline, and you turn the page to the next chapter. So apply, why I'm smiling is anybody that resists us when we start talking, well, apply the principles of a training plan and how you improve in your sporting discipline to your backup plan and start to build it with the same commitment and
yeah,
apply the same work ethic, and you'll get to the right place. So
Yeah,
I,
100%.
I love talking to you, Shelley. I think as we wrap things up here, we always have a bit of a quick fire. Now, the beautiful thing about the ATA community is growing and growing, and people are pinging in requests and sort of questions. So you'll have heard these sort of things before, but still they pop up a lot, and actually they get a lot of comments and a lot of engagement when we put the episodes out there. So
Well,
best piece of advice you've ever received. It could be sporting, life advice, doesn't matter. But if you were to pass on to the listeners the best piece of advice you've ever received, what comes to mind?
listen to your body.
Right. Well, you sort of
Mm,
contradicted. Well, you did listen to your body. You didn't listen to the consultants. That was the
yeah,
important thing. So you did listen. So listen to your body. Love it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one. Now, in terms of, I don't know if you're a big reader, Shelley.
Oh,
People
massive.
love.
I've big
Right.
library behind me, so
There
yeah.
you go. So everybody loves to grow and develop, and one of the often asked questions is, "What's your most recommended book?" So I'll put that question to you. If you had to share one particular book that's had an impact on you, that you would say to listeners, "Check this one out. I enjoyed it." What comes to mind?
Oh, does it have to be related to athletics?
No, oh no, no, absolutely not. No, we've had some weird and wonderful
Um,
suggestions. It doesn't matter what it is,
see, I love Dan Brown books.
right?
So,
He was the Da
and I've
Vinci
just,
Code, wasn't he? Dan Brown, is that?
hmm
Yeah,
yeah, but I've just read his last book, The Secret of Secrets, and it's
right.
if you're an athlete, I recommend reading it
Okay,
because
perfect.
it blew my mind.
Right. Well, I've not read that. I've read a few of his books, but The Secret of Secrets, there's the recommendation.
It is absolutely, you will rethink your whole mindset after reading this. Honestly, it is. I think is it noetics. It's honestly the way they describe the brain and what it does and the out of body experience and the consciousness and oh my God, it's literally blown my mind reading this book.
Well, that is a great endorsement. That's going to get
100%.
ordered. That's getting ordered tonight as soon as we finish recording. So
It's
I love that
so
one.
good. So good.
Next one sounds a bit dark. It's not meant to be, but it was framed. So we'll frame it slightly differently. But if there was a fire and you were grabbing one thing in your house, loved ones, family members aside, I think we reframe it a bit because a few people are like, oh, I don't like to think like that. Well, most treasured possession. If you were grabbing one thing, there's a fire or no fire, what comes to mind as your most treasured possession?
Ooh, it'd have to be probably my PlayStation 5.
There we go. Well,
So
spoken like a true gamer. No, no,
it's
that's
either
it.
that or
That's
my Oculus, one or the other. I'd have
right.
to I'd have to grab both. I couldn't just
Grab
I've
one in
got two
each arm.
hands,
Yeah,
one in
no,
each arm.
I
That'd
like
be
it.
it.
I
Yeah,
like it.
I'd
These are
have to.
no, these are great insights. So last couple, that classic question, dead or alive, you can invite three people for dinner, couple of drinks if you like to drink. Who would you like to sit round a dinner table, chat with, learn from, pick their brains? Who comes to mind there? Who's on your guest list?
Oh God, that's a good one. Mm, oh God, do you know what? I couldn't actually tell you. I mean, everyone used to ask me who my hero was when I was younger, and it was my nana
I love that. Yeah.
because because the resilience that my nan shown when my granddad passed away and my nan
Yes.
just carried on.
Yes.
It just blew my mind. And my dad's passed away now as well, so he died in 2022. My mum's kind of my hero again. My mum
Yes.
now, it's because
Yeah.
of the way she's been. But I'd probably, oh, do you know what? I couldn't.
Don't
I
worry.
honestly couldn't answer it.
Don't worry.
I'd
No,
have, I'd have,
go
I'd
on.
have my nan.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be anyone famous, does
No,
it? I
no,
just,
no, no, absolutely not.
I'd have my nan and my dad because my,
Yeah.
my nan would tell my dad to stop farmyarding because he liked to swear a bit.
Right.
Um, she used to crack me up, but my nan was such a strong woman. Oh my God. And my dad was my hero as well. Um, what was the third one? Oh, I couldn't possibly even
Well,
answer that, to be fair.
I love the way you've answered it nonetheless because it
Mm,
shows that importance of family and that connection. And there's not many athletes that get to where they are without strong support. And we often hear this about
mm.
what my family did and how they inspired me and the resilience, everything you've just said. So, no, I love that.
Oh, my mum and dad didn't have a holiday for 13 and a half years because of me. So, and they've got a
Taxis
picture.
and ever present,
They
I
took me
imagine.
everywhere,
Yeah.
absolutely everywhere. They did without just so they could buy me javelins and like javelin boots and all kinds of things. So I would never have got to where I am without those guys. And they've got a
Yeah.
picture of me in my Olympic kit in the
Yeah.
house. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Special.
saw my dad cry as well when I qualified for the Olympics, which
I
I'd
can
never seen
believe it.
before.
I can believe it. I
So,
cried recently with my daughter singing a solo at school, so I can believe it.
oh,
To see your daughter go out and represent GB, is I can only imagine how immense that is. So,
yeah.
last question, Shay. This is just a random one. People say ask them this. Is there anybody in your network, anybody that you think we should approach and invite to be on the podcast? Doesn't have to be in your discipline, but just in that sport that might have an interesting viewpoint or a story of transition as they've come out of sport into the next chapter. Again, no problem if nothing springs to mind, but we ask this question nonetheless.
It's probably the two guys that I did a podcast with the other week, which I think you probably know Freddie already.
Oh yeah. Freddie's an ambassador. Freddie Woodward. Yeah.
I did a dive podcast for them and Yona. So they're
Yes,
such lovely guys.
they are.
There probably is one guy that I would say for you to go for. That would be Steve Smith.
Right.
He's a high jumper. So he won I think it was, I want to say silver. I might be wrong, but we were in Atlanta together.
Right.
So, and we just recently met up again after many years of not seeing each other because our old GB junior team manager passed away. She was 93.
Oh wow.
But she was like, I'd always stayed in touch with her and used to take her out for lunch. And when she got really ill, I'd go around and visit her and we'd reminisce about athletics. And she's just recently passed away, and there's like quite a few Olympians turned up to her funeral because she had that kind of impact.
Right.
So, and Steve was there, but Steve's 100% a person that I would recommend speaking to.
Yeah, we'll do that. Thank you, Shelley. Well, listen, I think from my perspective, all that remains to be said is a massive thank you. I've loved our conversation. I'm sure the listeners will too. I love your candor. I love your story of resilience. I love how you're giving back. And I think it's been fascinating to hear. And I also really appreciate you stepping into that loss of identity and that challenging period and giving people inspiration, if that's the right word to say, build that backup plan. So there's so much wisdom come out of this, and you've done it after a day's work. And so I really appreciate the energy and the presence that you've brought tonight, despite the fact that you've had a full day in advance of this recording. So thanks very much, Shelley. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
No, it's been lovely. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for joining us this week on our ATA podcast. If you found this conversation insightful and it resonates with your journey, please subscribe, follow the show, and stay connected with us for more insight, resources, and information on how we at ATA are supporting your preparation for life beyond the game.